I'm going to show you 3 things on the trend that are going to save you and keep profits in your pocket. So if you come over here to my chart, the first thing that you'll always need to pay attention to is the volume. And I'm using Google in this example. And the reason that I'm using Google, there's a couple of things here that I'm noticing where the trend, it died and it reversed quickly to the downside. It was very, very simple to see this. And you might be saying, Mo, this is in retrospect. Well, yes, it is in retrospect right now, but this is the best way to teach you. And you'll see this stuff developing as it's happening. So the first thing that I look at here with Google, I see a declining volume. One of the biggest indicators that your trend is going to stop moving in the direction that you want it is declining volume, meaning that there are less people participating in the stock, or even more so, there are less people going in the direction that you want it to go in, meaning buying the stock. And you can just simply see this. If we go and look at the last 5 or 6 days, you notice that the average volume was up here, and you can just see the very steady decline. And today, we're actually getting quite insignificant volume. Now, what else plays into that? It's not just volume. In this instance, it's going into a big resistance point, which happens to be an all-time high on Google, but don't think of it just as all-time highs. This is for any type of resistance, whether you're going into self-built-in resistance, which I'll show you an example, any type of major moving average that can play a big role in resistance, maybe a 100 or 200-day moving average. With Google here, you can see we tested the all-time high one time. Actually, let's take it back even further. You tested the all-time high right here back in April. Then you came and tried a new all-time high in mid-May. You tried to peak up there again in June, and what happened? Well, you weren't able to sustain, creating what we like to call an ugly face pattern. So if I just draw a little face here, it shows an ugly face. So a couple of things here were telling me that my trend was about to turn over and die. I was seeing 1, the declining volume. 2, it was testing those highs that it could not break through. And 3, it was giving me this ugly face pattern. So all of these things you can combine into one and say, my trend is probably over. This is not a place that I should be going and adding, even though it's trying to make a new all-time high, which is extremely exciting, but you need to know that sometimes it's going to stop right there. I want to welcome you to my channel and my Patreon. Right now, I have a Patreon that's $25 a month. It is a limited time. This price will go up. It is a great community of other traders that are in similar situations as you. Some people want to do this full-time, some people part-time, some people just want to get involved with the game. It is a place for everybody to be. It is a great chat community. We go live multiple times per week, and you have full access to me and, of course, the other traders in the community. So I encourage you to join that for $25 a month right now. Now, I want to show you an opposite of this one, just so you can see what it looks like when a trend is continuing. So let's go to Apple today. Apple has had pretty insignificant volume over the past couple of weeks. Yesterday, there was a big announcement. What happened? The volume increased. Notice what happened to the trend. The trend went higher. And here was the interesting part. If we just draw a line across here, you can see that it challenged. This was an all-time high. That was in December of 23. We kind of challenged that all-time high again. But what happened? We actually broke through the all-time high. So this is where you look at something and say, all right, how does my trend not die? And that would be an increase of volume. That just shows you how important it is. There's no saying that this won't pull back. This can absolutely pull back. It more likely than not will, but it just shows you and gives you a perspective of if you were to get really good volume and not seeing that steep decline in volume, that's how you get through a resistance point, and that's how you let your trend continue for you. Now let's go to another example, being Lennar. Lennar is a home builder, and Lennar has had a very interesting past several months, I should say. So I'm going to pull up a long-term chart here. And what you notice with the long-term chart is that you could have had a great trade. You could have came through the sweet spot very nicely. And remember, as you come through the sweet spot, what happens to the price? The price continues to climb, especially when you get into this overbought area, and it just goes sideways, sideways, sideways. As your stochastic goes sideways, your price continues to climb. Now, how did you know when your trend was falling off? We're going to take a look at the volume, but when you start to see your trend starting to dip down, I look for a couple of things, especially when we're going again into these all-time highs. That's kind of where we're at with this market. We made a peak right here, and that was our all-time high at the time. This was in April of 2024. Well, when I started to see the stock price kind of trickle like this, I said to myself, all right, at some point it's going to reach a bottom. The bottom was it happened to be right where the long consolidation period was. This was probably a little 2-month period where we knew that we were going to kind of hit that bottom right there. It would be very challenging for it to drop any lower. Now, what I look for at this point for a trend to die is I want to see if the stock price rebounds on me, which it probably would because it hit that base resistance point or support level. Will it create another eyeball? Meaning that the resistance level that it's hitting is exactly the same. You can see that it was. And what typically happens after an ugly face pattern? Well, we're in the midst of it and we are starting to fall. I do believe that with Lennar, this trend is going to break this support level right here and it's going to continue on. How did I figure all of this out? It's very simple. All you do is just look at the trend and look for those ugly face patterns. So there's 3 main ways that I want you to pay attention here to know if your trend is dead. Number 1 is the volume. Number 2 is following that stochastic and looking for those patterns, be it an ugly face pattern or a head and shoulders pattern where the trend just completely switches on you. Let's pull up the daily over here and kind of see what was going on with the volume in this time frame. So if we just look here, we can see that when that trend started to kind of, this is where it was. It was kind of right in here where it started to dip. We started to get that weak volume that was coming in. And not only weak volume, what do you notice if you look from basically here through here? Where was the biggest point of selling volume where you had that concentrated selling volume? Well, it's pretty easy to see. It was just right here. So not only did we have weak volume, but we had a lot of selling volume coming in. That's where you started to get that big fall. Then you just had overall weak volume for the subsequent weeks. And that right there can tell you that your trend is going to die. So today is June 11th. I want everybody to just kind of pay attention to this. I'm not saying that it's absolutely going to happen, but I think there's an incredibly good chance that this thing actually does break down. I encourage you all to kind of throw Lennar on your watch list and just see what happens. See if it breaks the support level. See if this ugly face pattern really pushes this thing down. Once you break that level right there, you're going to get hung up here around 145, and then it can really be a free fall down to about $127. Then you have a gap to fill. Then you have more gaps. I mean, this thing really, if selling came in, let's say that something happened in the world of homes, this thing could easily come down to about $103, $104 a share. Not saying that's going to happen, but you can see how the ugly face pattern kind of starts that trend and kills that uptrend. So if this interests you and you want to make trading a part-time career, click this video right here and I'll show you how. Have a great day.